Philip Malloy, detective. The detective character has fascinated writers since it was created in the 19th century. He possessed the ability to maneuver corridors not accessible by middle class readers. For instance, he could investigate the seamier parts of society by day while gaining entry to the lavish parties of the upper classes by night. However, the early detective character had one major flaw. He lacked realism. He was always too clean and respectful to really be believable as a person who solved crimes. Think of Sherlock Holmes actually investigating the harsh realities of urban crime, and you'll reach the same conclusion. Why would Dr. Mariachi, a full evil genius, a true evil genius, sorry, take a gentleman in a cape and silly cap seriously enough to antagonize him. And even if this detective figure were believable, he certainly would not fit into the United States. No, Americans are far too casual to celebrate a gentleman crime fighter. We need someone a little rougher around the edges. Enter to the scene Philip Malloy, the creation of Raymond Chandler. Malloy is a tough private eye solving cases in mid-century Los Angeles. He made his first appearance in 1939's The Big Sleep and would later appear in the equally successful The Long Goodbye. Malloy is wisecracking and hard-living, but he is still morally upright, at least in print. Still, he is sleazy enough to seem believable in the underworld of LA, but it is his film portrayals that really make Malloy the perfect detective of all time. In the 1940s, he was played by both Dick Powell in Murder by My Swede and more famously by Humphrey Bogart in The Big Sleep. In both cases, Malloy on screen was different from Malloy in print. He became a little less morally pure, a little less sure, and a little bit more suspicious. That is, he became more like real Americans in the same time period. Americans coming home from World War II, left behind the moral certainty of a just war and found a new reality at home, a world of confusion and suspicion, a world requiring detection. These films embody the world of film noir, a genre that engages primarily in shadows and rain-soaked streets that perfectly capture the contradictions and dark areas that define both the character and, by extension, the Americans he represents. It was the perfect syncing of character, form, genre, and time, and it caused Malloy to become the detective of his time and place. The function of paragraph 2 is to explain why older forms of detective characters could not work in the United States in the 20th century. To ever emerge from literature. Antagonize. Have you ever wondered what it means by antagonize? To cause someone to become hostile or angry. Of Chandler book. All of them sounds really sensible. However, I need to choose the correct one. Gonna work in the United States. It's not true. Okay, it's not true. The option is not true. Describe a traditional detective character of Mead. Wait, it doesn't have that detail. Like here's in America, but not in the United Kingdom. So yeah, provide the plot of the typical detective story, so that the author can later explain how the plots of Chandler books are different. It isn't. It isn't talking about the plot, right? argue that Sherlock Holmes did not make sense as a detective because he was too certain of things. Yeah, I think D makes sense the most. Wait, A? But like, okay. In second paragraph, the author discusses the major flaw of the early detective character, namely that he was always too clean and respectful. The author goes on to mention that said detective character certainly would not fit in the United States. To make this point, the author cites the appearance of Sherlock Holmes, and the rest of the passage is spent explaining why Philip Marlowe, especially on screen, does embody the condition of American like the middle 20th century. Therefore, choice A is correct. Okay, whatever. Marlowe on screen is each of the following except a tough guy, uncertain, suspicious, sarcastic. What does sarcastic mean, right? It means like make marked or given by using irony in order to mock or convey content. No, of course. A gentleman? Wait. Choice C is choice D, okay? Morally pure. Okay. Portrayals of Philip. Seriously, bro? I would not be surprised if it don't pass a test, because even the title really triggers a lot of questions, to be honest. Okay, whatever. The Manny's Sister, Passage 1. On my first visit to New York, when I was a child, the headline was the Metropolitan Museum of Art, located in Central Park. The museum was like nothing I'd ever seen. It seemed so large that I wondered if I had not wandered into a small city of art. According to our tour guide, it measures around 2 million square feet in size and contains over 400 rooms. That meant that there were entire rooms in which my family and I were the only people visible. Now as an adult, this seems even stranger to me. I've lived in New York for the past 25 years, and in that time I have gotten used to constantly being surrounded by the 8.5 million people that live in the city. On the subway, I'm often pressed up against hundreds of passengers. On the street, it seems that 1 million people are trying to get to the same place I am at any one time. But a visit to the Met, as we New Yorkers affectionately call the museum, still provides one with a feeling of isolation. Art is an expression made between two individuals, the artist and the viewer. As such, art is primarily a personal experience, and it is truly a luxury to be able to experience something by oneself in a city where everyone is used to never being alone. Okay, so let's continue answering the questions related to the passage number 1, because as I was reading and when I turned to answer those questions, sometimes I missed out certain details in each paragraph, and yeah, it would decrease my scores. So let's just answer this. How many people live in New York? 8.5. In paragraph 2 of passage 1, its other contrast, looking at art, looking at grounds of people, feeling alone and being surrounded by people, experiencing art, and simply looking at it with others. This. The information in passage 2 implies that the Cloisters is the second largest art museum in America. The Met does not contain medieval art. The Cloisters is older than the Met. There are larger medieval art collections in Europe. As the largest art museum in the United States, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York has hosted some of the most famous art exhibits in the world, and its permanent collection holds some of the world's best-known artworks. Because of this, it attracts some 6.2 million visitors each year, but far few visit or are even aware of the Met's second side, located in Fort Tryon Park in the Manhattan's northern edge, though it's the Met's sister museum, the Cloisters. The Cloisters is a Met's building dedicated solely to medieval art. It was funded and founded principally by John D. Rockefeller Jr. Today houses one of the largest medieval art collections outside of Europe. The main building at the Cloisters is so called because it contains parts of various resembled medieval churches and convents. It opened in 1938, 66 years after the original Met. While the art and building are themselves impressive and worth seeing, the Cloisters offers visitors something rare in Manhattan: peace and quiet. The museum is located on one of the island's highest points, and the park that surrounds it overlooks the Hudson River. At the Cloisters, it is possible to feel as though you are visiting someplace in nature and not the largest city in the United States. In America. Oh, we have that part? No, it doesn't. It doesn't talk you about that part as well. So yeah, the Met does not contain medieval art. Houses are the largest, one of the larger medieval art collections in Europe. Yeah, it just said that one of the largest. Okay, so it indicates there are so many other larger medieval art collections out there in Europe. So I think based on the Syrian passage 2, the word cloisters usually refers to parts of buildings. So cloisters. That are surrounded by nature, that are historical significance, that are used for religious purposes, is to have works of art. It can be understood from information in both passages that one can get lost into the Met. No, yeah, feel isolated, experience nature, see medieval art, only the Cloisters. Both passages highlight the experience of living in a crowded New York City, the feeling of isolation one can get while looking at a work of art, the temporary escape from New York that museums can provide, the history of a museum located in parts in New York City. Museums can provide. I think like it is not always the museums, but others too. So I think C or A kind of make C or B kind of makes sense. So like let me read further. Part that surrounds it overlooks the Hudson River. Whatever. Okay. Let's join the quiz. The Terrible Zero. I do remember I did this one. And yeah, I have to say that this passage is so hard. I mean, I really mean it. Let me just read it for you. The Terrible Zero. History shows that people resist something new if they don't understand it. Take, for example, the Terrible Zero. For many centuries after the Roman Empire, the Dark Ages, and well into the 17th century, European merchants added and subtracted numbers using a smooth, square piece of wood. This piece of wood, called a counting board, was about 2 multiple 2 in size and was bisected by a vertical line. This vertical line had 4 perpendicular lines running through it horizontally. With the counting board positioned in front of the user, the horizontal line closest to the user represented ones. The second line from the user represented tens. Okay, let me stop this.